Let's start. A woman dries herself off after a shower. She then pays the young man for his sexual service, then makes a call to an unknown number. Hello? Yes, Maxine has failed in keeping her clothes clean, and it has cost her. No, we will not aid her any longer. All measure has been taken care of despite the finical debacle she has caused us. This lawyer, though, Andy Robbins, and his wife, Texas Ranger Sergeant Robin Robbins. I believe they will be a problem. A problem that will cross path with us eventually. Uh-huh. Yes, ma'am. I will keep you informed. The woman then hangs up, looking at the photos of the names she mentioned. Looking at the photo, she officially fears. And it is a feeling she can't get enough of. Finally, someone worth killing. Boston. Maximus Brown was in his chamber looking out through the window and thinking how he got there. You know, when people talk about lifelong friends, they rarely mean the kind that grow up together, go to school together, then college, and, of all things, start a business together. But that's my story with Alistair Brown and Charles Xavier. We've been three of a kind from the time we could speak, sticking through thick and thin. And it's this bond that eventually led us to create Max Legal Services. Our story kicked off in a small neighborhood in Boston, where Alistair, Charles, and I went to school together. It wasn't long before we realized we were inseparable. And by the time we were in high school, we had a shared dream, to make an impact. We didn't know exactly what shape it would take, but law had a certain appeal. All three of us were drawn to the idea of defending people's rights, championing causes, and yes, changing lives. So, we went to law school together. It wasn't easy. Long nights with cases to study, endless exams, and more than a few burned-out coffee machines along the way. But we pushed each other, challenged each other, and, when necessary, picked each other up after a loss. And when we graduated, we faced another decision. Where would we go next? Working at big firms might have been the safe bet, but we had a different vision. We wanted to build something that was ours, something where our unique style and values could shine. So, we took a leap of faith and started our own firm, Max Legal Services. The name? An inside joke, a nod to me, Maximus, but also a reminder that we always aim for the maximum effort, the maximum results, and the maximum support for our clients, but it is actually the first letter of our names. Alistair strolled into the office, coffee in hand, a smirk on his face. So, Maximus, he said, settling into the chair across from me, when's the wedding with Christine? Don't keep us hanging. This is serious news. I laughed, trying to dodge the question. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Alistair, I said, shaking my head. We're taking our time. The truth was, Christine and I had been good together. A year of shared late-night calls and post-trial decompressions made things feel steady, maybe even right. But Alistair wouldn't let it go. Oh, come on, Max. It's been a year. She's smart, ambitious, and frankly, out of all of us, she might be the only one who keeps up with you. Just then, Charles walked in, overhearing the tail end of our conversation. He paused, a frown forming on his face. Maximus, don't do it, he said bluntly. She's bad news, and you know it. She's from Harrington and Ross, for heaven's sake. How do you know she's not playing you? She's the competition. I sighed, leaning back in my chair. Charles had made his stance on Christine clear before. Come on, Charles, I countered. Christine's her own person, and we keep things separate. Whatever you think, she's got nothing to do with firm rivalry. Besides, people said we couldn't work together either, but here we are. Charles shook his head. Just think about it, Max. Sometimes, the most charming people are the most dangerous. Alistair sighed, leaning back in his chair. Look, Charles, Max is smart enough to know what he's doing. Let him figure it out. Maximus, just promise us you'll keep both eyes open. I nodded, taking it in. It wasn't like Charles to back down, and his concern was genuine, but I knew what I felt. Well, it's funny how things turn out. Just a month after that conversation with Alistair and Charles, Christine and I tied the knot. One moment, I was brushing off their questions. The next, we were standing in front of family and friends, saying our vows. It happened fast, but when you know. Our honeymoon in Bali was nothing short of perfect. Christine and I spent our days exploring beaches, diving into the blue waters, and hiking the lush, green jungles. Bali felt like another world, far from the long hours and deadlines. We laughed over sunset dinners, made a few no-work talk rules, and just soaked it all in. Now, 2 years in, I still can't believe how much we've grown together. Alistair keeps joking that I won the marriage lottery, and even Charles, though still skeptical at times, seems to have come around a bit. It's been a wild ride, but I wouldn't change a thing. A few months after we returned from our second annual honeymoon, It felt like the ground had shifted beneath us. At first, I tried not to read too much into it. Marriage has ups and downs, after all. But something felt off. Christine became distant. She was exhausted all the time, brushing off any attempt I made to talk or connect. Intimacy disappeared altogether, replaced by her short temper and lingering silence. At first, I told myself it was just stress. We're both lawyers, and the demands are heavy. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. This was something else, something neither of us would admit. Christine, I feel like there's something going on between us. You're exhausted all the time, and we're just not connecting like we used to. Can we talk about it? Maximus sat down with Christine, watching her carefully as he spoke. She glanced up, barely making eye contact before returning to her phone. Max, it's really nothing. Work's just been intense lately, she said, her tone dismissive. I just need to get through this phase. Max studied her face, unconvinced. It's more than just work, isn't it? You don't even talk to me about your cases anymore. I miss the way things were. Christine sighed, irritated. Max, I said it's nothing. Please, don't make it into a bigger deal than it is. He wanted to press her, but something in her tone warned him to drop it. Instead, he just nodded, though he couldn't shake the feeling that something was seriously wrong. The next evening, Christine came home with an unusual energy and a bright smile. She dropped her bag, walked over, and kissed him on the cheek, something she hadn't done in months. Hey, Max. Listen, I've got some news. Kayla, my boss, needs me to go on a business trip with her for a few days, she announced casually, as if she hadn't been exhausted and irritable just the day before. It's a big opportunity, and I think it'll be great for my career. Max's eyebrows furrowed. A trip? With Kayla? This is sudden. Christine shrugged. That's just how it is sometimes. Kayla's relying on me, and I need to be there. He hesitated, something uneasy stirring in his gut. I mean, if you really think it's important. She laughed lightly. Max, it's fine. I'll be back before you know it. And with that, she left the room, leaving him alone with his questions. Maximus took a steadying breath as he watched Christine packing her bag. He tried to keep his tone casual. So, where exactly are you headed? He asked, leaning against the doorframe. Las Vegas, she replied, folding a few dresses and tucking them into her suitcase. There's a new client there, and Kayla wants me to help with the negotiations. Shouldn't take more than a week. Vegas, huh? Max tried to sound upbeat, but he felt an unsettling pang. That's exciting, he managed. She smiled briefly. Yeah, it is. I know this is coming out of nowhere, but it's a big opportunity. I'll be back soon. Of course, he said, nodding. Just stay safe, all right? Christine waved him off with a laugh. I'll be fine. Max, trust me. Once she left, Max took out his phone, scrolling to a contact he hadn't reached out to in a while. Alex, Vegas. Alex was an old college friend who now lived out there, someone he trusted to keep an eye from a distance without stirring up trouble. The call connected, and after a quick catch-up, Max lowered his voice. Listen, Alex, I've got a favor to ask. My wife's going to be in town for a week on business. I just have a feeling. Can you keep an eye out? Make sure she's safe? There was a pause before Alex responded, his tone understanding. I got you, Max. I'll make sure she's good. Max exhaled, relief washing over him. Thanks, Alex. I owe you one. He ended the call, still unsure if he was overreacting but grateful he'd taken a step to keep her safe, and to calm the nagging suspicion gnawing at him. Max sat alone in his office at Max Legal Services, trying to focus on work, but his thoughts kept drifting back to Christine in Vegas. The unease gnawed at him, and the minutes dragged until Alistair and Charles walked in, each holding coffee and looking at him with raised eyebrows. Max, you look like you haven't slept in days, Alistair said, settling into the chair across from him. What's going on, man? Max forced a smile, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. It's complicated. Charles leaned against the desk, crossing his arms. Complicated? More like something seriously eating at you. Out with it. Max sighed, running a hand through his hair. It's Christine, he said, lowering his voice. She's on this business trip in Vegas with her boss, Kayla, and, I don't know, something just feels off. Alistair and Charles exchanged a quick glance before Charles spoke up. Let me guess. She's been distant, tired all the time, and now she's gone on a sudden work trip? Max, we tried to warn you about her. Max shook his head, looking down. I know, Charles, I remember, but this is different. I feel like I don't even know her anymore. I mean, I even called a friend in Vegas to keep an eye on her, just in case. Alistair raised an eyebrow. A friend in Vegas? That's serious. Do you really think something's going on? Max took a deep breath. I don't know what to think. I tried talking to her, and she just brushed me off like it was nothing. Then, the next day, she's all smiles, saying she's got this big client to meet in Vegas. It doesn't add up. Charles nodded, his face unreadable. I hate to say it, but sometimes instincts are all we have, Max. If something feels wrong, maybe it's time to get some answers. Just be ready for what you might find. Max looked at his friends, grateful for their support, but still weighed down by the uncertainty. Yeah, he said quietly. I guess I just need to know, one way or another. Max took a deep breath as he dialed Alex's number, waiting for his friend to pick up. After a couple of rings, Alex's voice came through, calm and steady. Max, hey. I've seen her around. Alex began without preamble. She's with her boss, Kayla, like she said. Max felt a momentary relief, but the nagging doubt still lingered. Yeah. So she's actually with Kayla? Yep. It checks out, Alex confirmed. There was a pause before he added, look, if you want, I can shadow her. Make sure there's nothing off. Max hesitated, trying to balance between his lingering doubts and wanting to respect Christine's privacy. No, Alex, he finally said. Just keep an eye on her. Nothing too close. I don't want her feeling followed or anything. Just let me know if anything out of the ordinary happens. Alex's voice was reassuring. Understood, Max. I'll get one of my guys to tail her, discreetly. By Saturday, I'll have the details for you. Thanks, Alex, Max replied, feeling a mixture of gratitude and anxiety. I owe you for this. No problem, man. Hang in there. As he hung up, Max couldn't shake the tension building in his chest, bracing himself for whatever news Saturday might bring. That evening, Max sat alone at the dining table, watching the clock. His mind kept racing, and he finally picked up his phone, dialing Christine's number. After a couple of rings, she picked up. Hey, Max, Christine's voice came through, sounding upbeat. Hey, he replied, trying to keep his tone casual. Just wanted to check in. How's the trip going? Oh, it's good, she said. Pretty busy, but productive. We've made some good progress with the client. That's great, Max responded, feeling a twinge of relief at her steady tone. When are you planning to come back? There was a slight pause before Christine answered. I'll be back Friday evening. My flight lands around 9. Okay, he said, trying to keep his voice even. I'll see you then. Perfect, she replied. I've got to get back to this meeting, but I'll call you when I land. All right, he replied, holding back a sigh. Travel safe, Christine. After they hung up, Max sat there in silence, a storm of thoughts swirling in his mind. Friday couldn't come soon enough. As Friday rolled around, anticipation buzzed through me like an electric current. I wanted to make Christine feel special, to remind her of the connection we once had. So, I decided to surprise her with a nice dinner when she got back. Friday afternoon finally came, and I rushed out of the office, eager to get home and finish preparing for Christine's return. I could hardly contain my excitement. The whole day felt like it dragged on forever. As I pulled into my driveway, my heart sank for a moment. A car I didn't recognize was parked there, and the custom license plate caught my eye. WMAS-02. The name sounded familiar, but I couldn't quite place it. My mind raced through possibilities, but nothing clicked. Shaking it off, I parked and stepped out, dismissing the feeling of unease creeping in. When I reached the front door, I noticed it was unlocked. That was strange. I usually made it a point to keep things secure, especially when Christine was away. I pushed the door open slowly, my senses heightened. The first thing I noticed was Christine's luggage sitting just inside the entryway. It was like a jolt of electricity shot through me. She must have returned earlier than I expected. As I stepped inside, a noise came from the bedroom, a soft rustling followed by muffled voices. My heart raced as I approached the bedroom door, my mind churning with confusion and dread. I hesitated, trying to gather my thoughts, wondering if I had imagined the sounds. Was she already back, or was there something more to this? I took a deep breath and pushed the door open slightly, peering in. The sight that greeted me felt surreal. Christine was there, but she wasn't alone. As I pushed the door open just a crack, my stomach dropped. The scene before me felt like a punch to the gut. There, in our bed, was Christine, entwined with another man. My heart raced, and my breath caught in my throat as the reality of the moment crashed over me. The man was leaning over Christine, and I caught a glimpse of her face. Her eyes closed, lost in the moment, but it was the sight of Kayla, sitting there naked, that ignited a firestorm of rage within me. She was watching them, a satisfied smile on her face, as if this was some twisted game. I felt a rush of adrenaline surge through my veins. I pulled out my phone, instinctively snapping a few pictures, a desperate attempt to capture this betrayal. I couldn't believe what I was witnessing. My mind raced, a whirlwind of emotions, hurt, anger, disbelief. This was my wife, and this was our home. Rage boiled over, consuming any remnants of calm. I pushed the door open wider and stormed into the room, my heart pounding like a war drum. What the hell is going on here? I shouted, my voice echoing off the walls. The man jerked up, eyes wide with shock, and in that instant, I launched myself at him. I couldn't think, couldn't process. All I felt was the need to make him pay for what he was doing, for what he had taken from me. I tackled him to the bed, fists swinging as adrenaline fueled my every move. I landed blow after blow, my hands connecting with his face, the sound of flesh hitting flesh mixing with the chaos around me. You think you can just come into my home? I growled, my vision blurring with anger. You think you can take her from me? Christine's cries and Kayla's shouts faded into the background as I focused solely on the man beneath me. It felt like the world had narrowed down to just us, and I was determined to make him understand the gravity of what he had done. I didn't even recognize my own voice as I shouted, "Get away from her!" In that moment, I was lost to the fury, consumed by betrayal and heartache. I couldn't let this stand. Not here, not now. The blows landed hard and fast, each punch fueled by a mix of betrayal and rage. The man beneath me struggled, but I was lost in the whirlwind of emotions, sorrow, anger, and the bitter sting of betrayal coursing through me. I didn't recognize myself in that moment. Christine and Kayla were screaming now, berating me, hurling insults that cut deeper than any punch. "You're such a loser, Max," Christine yelled, her voice shrill. "You have no right to be here." It was like a dagger to my heart. The words echoed in my mind as I continued to pummel the guy. "This is my home. My wife," I shouted, my voice raw and desperate. But the reality of what I was doing, and how it was affecting them, hit me in waves, crashing against my resolve. Suddenly, I felt hands on my shoulders, pulling me away. It was a blur of blue uniforms, and I realized the cops had arrived. I looked back at Christine, her face twisted in anger, and Kayla smirking as they watched me being dragged away. "You'll regret this, Max," Kayla called after me. I was handcuffed, the cold metal biting into my wrists as they led me out of my own house. My mind raced with disbelief. How had it come to this? I never imagined I'd end up in a police car, especially not for something so personal. The hours in the holding cell felt like an eternity. I sat on the hard bench, replaying the scene in my mind, trying to make sense of what had happened. Every moment of that night played on repeat. Christine's face, her betrayal, the chaos that ensued. Finally, after what felt like an endless wait, my friends Alistair and Charles arrived to bail me out. I spotted them through the glass, relief flooding my system. They made their way over, concern etched on their faces. "Max, what the hell happened?" Alistair asked as I stepped out, his tone a mix of worry and disbelief. "I found Christine with another man," I said, my voice shaky. "I lost it. I don't even know how it got that far." Charles shook his head, trying to process the whirlwind of events. "We need to talk about this. We have bailed you out, and we have to figure out what comes next." As I walked out into the cool night air, the reality of what had just happened began to sink in. I felt like I was stepping into a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. The warmth of friendship surrounded me, but I couldn't shake the cold emptiness that lingered in my chest. My world had been turned upside down, and I didn't know how to make sense of it. When I walked through the front door, my heart raced. The adrenaline from earlier was still coursing through my veins, and I wasn't sure what to expect. But the last thing I expected was to find Christine still there, waiting for me. She stood in the living room, arms crossed, an unsettling calm about her. "You're back," she said, her tone clipped. "Yeah, I'm back," I replied, the tension thick in the air. I could feel my pulse quickening as I took a step closer, trying to gauge her mood. "I hope you enjoyed your little vacation," she continued, a sly smile creeping onto her face. "Because I've made some decisions while you were gone." "What kind of decisions?" I asked, my gut twisting. "I've decided I'm going to sleep with other men, Max. You'll just have to deal with it." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. "You're serious?" I asked, incredulity spilling from my lips. "Oh, I'm very serious. The variety will keep me satisfied," she said, her voice low and steady. "You have no idea what you're dealing with. I'll wreck you if you don't comply." With that, She produced a document from her bag and tossed it onto the coffee table in front of me. This is a legal agreement. You will hand over all your assets to me. If you refuse, I'll divorce you and take everything. I glanced at the paper, feeling anger boiling within me. Christine, the house is technically my mother's. She's still alive, and I'm just a tenant. You have no claim over it. Her smile widened, and I could see the malice in her eyes. Oh, but I will take that from you too, Max. I'll find a way. Just wait and see. I stood up, staring her down, an unexpected sense of defiance swelling within me. Try me. You think you can just bully me into submission? You're mistaken. Christine's expression shifted slightly, a flicker of surprise passing over her face. You really don't know who you're messing with. No, I think I do. I shot back. You've shown your true colors, Christine. You think you can threaten me and get away with it? Trust me, dear wifey, you have just touched an electric wire, but this wire is not going to shock you right away. But when it does, you will regret every breath you take. That is a man's promise. And before I forget, your little toy boy has withdrawn his complaint against me. Took some convincing by a close friend of mine, but he agreed and he is on his way out of the city. So, I am a free man right now. So, what I will still find more men. I am beautiful and I deserve variety in my life. She sneered. As for variety, you should try the downtown red light. We'll get you the variety you deserve. I said with sarcasm. I have standards, dear husband. I smiled and went in my bedroom and threw her stuff out of the room. Although you spoiled my bed, I still like it. So sleep in the guest bedroom. I changed the sheets and threw the mattress out. The next day, I made a decision that felt both liberating and terrifying. I had Christine served at her office. The thought of her reaction fueled a mix of adrenaline and dread in me. I knew it would escalate things, but I was done playing nice. Later that afternoon, my phone buzzed. It was Christine, her name glaring at me like a warning sign. I answered, bracing myself for the storm that was about to hit. Max, you piece of trash. She screamed through the line, her voice filled with venom. How dare you do this to me? You'll regret it. I tried to interject, but her tirade only grew louder. You think you can just ruin my life? You're nothing without me. You'll lose everything. I'm hanging up now, Christine, I said firmly, my heart racing. Don't you dare. I cut her off, hitting the end call button before she could finish. The weight of her threats hung in the air, but I felt a surge of resolve wash over me. I was ready for a fight. Later that evening, I met Alistair and Charles at our usual bar, the familiar scent of aged wood and whiskey surrounding us as I walked in. They were already seated at a corner table, their expressions serious. Max, Alistair said as I approached, his brow furrowed with concern. You really went through with it? Yeah, I did. I'm not backing down, I replied, taking a seat. She needs to know I won't just roll over. I can't let her intimidate me anymore. Charles nodded, his fingers tapping nervously on the table. So what's the plan? This isn't going to end well without a solid strategy. I need to get a lawyer, I said, feeling the gravity of the situation. Someone who knows the ins and outs of this kind of fight. She's going to come at me hard, and I need to be prepared. Agreed. Alistair chimed in. You have to make sure you protect yourself and your business. This could get ugly. I nodded, my stomach churning with the reality of what lay ahead. I know, but I'm not going to let her take everything from me without a fight. The three of us huddled together, strategizing over drinks as the bar buzzed with life around us. Each word felt heavy, filled with the weight of the battle I was about to face. I could feel the resolve building within me. I would fight for what was mine, for my dignity, and for my future. No matter how hard it got, I was ready to take on the storm that was Christine. As I was deep in discussion with Alistair and Charles, my phone buzzed again, cutting through the haze of our strategizing. I glanced at the screen and saw Alex's name. He rarely called unless it was important, so I picked up immediately. Hey, Max, Alex said, his voice unusually somber. Alex, what's up? You sound off. I don't know how to say this, he replied, hesitation lacing his words. I've got some news about Christine. I think she's cheating on you. I have video evidence. I didn't want to believe it at first, but I couldn't ignore what I saw, he continued, his tone heavy with sympathy. I'm really sorry, man. Thanks for letting me know, Alex. I appreciate it. Can you send me the videos? Yeah, I'll send them over right away. I just wish it was better news, he said, his voice thick with empathy. Me too, I replied, feeling the weight of the moment. I'll talk to you soon. I hung up, my thoughts racing. Part of me was grateful to Alex for looking out for me, but another part felt the sting of betrayal all over again. My phone buzzed again almost immediately, and I saw that Alex had sent the videos. I hesitated for a moment, heart pounding in my chest. I took a deep breath, reminding myself that I needed to face this. I opened the file, ready to confront the truth, whatever it might be. I quickly opened the message from Alex, my heart racing. The video file appeared on my screen, and I felt a mix of dread and determination wash over me. I knew what I was about to see, but I had to confront it head-on. With a deep breath, I hit play. The image on the screen flickered to life, and there they were, Christine and the other man, caught in a moment I never wanted to witness. My heart sank further with each passing second, the reality of her betrayal crashing over me like a wave. It was one thing to suspect, but another entirely to see it laid bare before me. My mind raced as I watched, the anger bubbling beneath the surface. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, a mix of pain and fury coursing through me. How could she do this? I thought about all the moments we had shared, the promises we made, and now they felt like lies. As the video ended, I felt a burning determination ignite within me. I wouldn't let her get away with this. I was already preparing for battle with her over the assets, but now it was personal. I knew I had to gather evidence and use it to my advantage. I closed the video, my mind racing with plans for how to confront her. I had to take control of the situation. I'd show her that I wouldn't be broken by her actions, that I was ready to fight back harder than ever. Looking up at Alistair and Charles, who were watching me closely, I felt a sense of resolve settle in. I've got the proof I need, I said, my voice steady. This isn't just about the assets anymore. I'm going to make sure she knows that I'm not the one who's going to lose. The bar was steeped in silence as I absorbed the weight of my situation. My friends and I exchanged glances, the unspoken understanding of the battle ahead hanging heavy in the air. Suddenly, a gruff voice broke through the tension. "Don't let her fool you, Max," said Justin Miller, the one-eyed sheriff. He leaned against the bar, his presence commanding attention. "She's just a pawn in a much bigger game. The real trouble is her boss." "Justin," I said, surprised to see him here. "What do you mean?" "I've seen it too many times," he replied, shaking his head. "This isn't just about Christine's infidelity. Her boss, Kayla, is at the center of a secret women's society that's been ruining marriages left and right. They manipulate and scheme to get what they want, and they won't hesitate to take you down in the process." My heart raced as I processed his words. "What are you talking about? What do they do?" "They're orchestrating chaos, Max," Justin explained, his voice low but intense. "They target successful men, build relationships under false pretenses, and then they turn their partners against them. You've got to be careful. So far, Christine's only technically cheated on you, and that's not enough for legal action." I felt a surge of frustration. "So what do? I can't just sit back and let this happen. We need evidence," Justin continued, his eye narrowing with determination. "Something that shows her and Kayla plotting or trying to harm someone. That's the only way to turn the tide in your favor." The three of us exchanged glances, absorbing the implications of what he was saying. "But how do we even begin to gather that?" Alistair asked, clearly intrigued but unsure. Justin straightened up, a hint of a plan forming in his mind. "You need to go undercover, get close to Christine again. See if you can uncover something that ties her to Kayla's schemes. It'll be risky, but it's the only way to protect yourself." I felt a mix of fear and resolve. The idea of going back into her world was daunting, but I also knew that if it meant gaining the upper hand, it was worth the risk. "I'll do it," I said, my voice steady. "I need to know what's really going on. I'm not going to let her ruin my life without a fight." Justin nodded, a grim smile forming on his lips. The courtroom was stark and unforgiving, the air thick with tension as I sat across from Christine, flanked by my lawyer. The judge, Vincent Miller, a stern man with a no-nonsense demeanor, took his seat at the front, his eyes scanning the room with an authoritative gaze. "Mr. Williams," he began, his voice booming as he looked down at me. "I've reviewed the evidence presented, and I must say, it raises some serious concerns." I could feel my stomach drop. "Your Honor, Let me finish," he interrupted, holding up a hand. "It appears your wife has strayed, but I see no evidence of wrongdoing on her part that justifies this divorce. Marriage is a commitment, and it should be preserved. It's clear to me that there are issues at play, and I can't help but think this is at least partially your fault." My jaw tightened as I glanced at Christine, who wore a smug expression, clearly relishing the moment. "What do you mean, Your Honor?" I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. The judge leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "You must take responsibility for your marriage. If your wife is wandering, It suggests a failure on your part to meet her needs, and there are some holes in your marriage that you need to fill. You need to fight to get her back, not give up on your vows. I felt my frustration boil over. But she's the one who cheated. I'm not the one who abandoned our marriage. Enough, he snapped, cutting me off. This is not a forum for emotional outbursts. You need to present a compelling case for why this marriage should be dissolved. Right now, all I see is an unwillingness to reconcile. I clenched my fists, my heart racing. Your Honor, I've tried to reach out to her. She refuses to communicate or work on our issues. I've been nothing but faithful to her. And yet, here we are, the judge said, his voice heavy with disapproval. You must understand that a marriage is a partnership. If it's failing, both parties must shoulder the blame. I suggest you take some time to reflect on your role in this. As I sat there, simmering with indignation, I could feel Alistair and Charles watching from the gallery, their expressions a mix of disbelief and support. I had hoped this would be a chance to present my side of the story, but the judge seemed more interested in pointing fingers than seeking justice. I urge you to consider counseling or mediation before making any final decisions, he continued. This court believes in saving marriages whenever possible. As the courtroom settled into an uneasy silence after the judge's previous remarks, I felt a surge of defiance welling up inside me. The idea of counseling was absurd. Trust had been shattered beyond repair, and I refused to play along with the charade any longer. Your Honor, I'm not going to counseling, I stated firmly, locking eyes with the judge. My trust in her is broken beyond repair. There's nothing that can fix this. The judge's expression darkened, his brow furrowing with anger. Mr. Williams, this is a serious decision. Refusing to seek help will cost you dearly. You need to understand that. I'll pay with money, one time, I replied, my voice unwavering. I'm not willing to give my wife any share of my company. The judge's eyes narrowed as he leaned forward, clearly unimpressed. I will not let this slide, Mr. Williams. Your wife is entitled to a fair division of assets. I'm ordering that you transfer your share of the company to her. I couldn't help but smile at the judge's words, an unexpected sense of relief washing over me. Go ahead. That will be a better trade. The judge raised an eyebrow, seemingly taken aback. You're certain about this? You'd rather keep your money than retain your business? Absolutely, I said confidently, glancing at my attorney, Charles, who was watching intently. I shot him a quick wink, knowing that our strategy was still in play. The judge looked at me, a mix of skepticism and curiosity etched on his face. Very well, I will order the transfer of your share of the company to your wife. You may keep your personal finances, but you will lose the business you built. As he made the order official, I felt a strange sense of empowerment. I might have been losing my company, but it was also a calculated move. I could rebuild and regroup. Christine may think she was winning, but I knew I had a plan in place. Court adjourned, the judge said, banging his gavel. I took a deep breath as I stood up, facing Charles and Alistair, who rushed over to my side. Max, are you sure about this? Charles asked, concern evident in his voice. Absolutely, I replied, confidence ringing in my tone. This is just the beginning. I've got a plan, and it's going to work. We'll turn this around, trust me. Alistair gave me a reassuring pat on the back. We've got your back, man. Let's figure out our next steps. 3 days later, Christine sat confidently in Max's office, her presence commanding as she adjusted to her new role as co-owner of Max Legal Services. The atmosphere buzzed with mixed emotions. While Max was stewing over the situation, Alistair and Charles entered the office, congratulating her with cheerful smiles. Congratulations, Christine. You really pulled off a big win, Alistair said, leaning casually against the doorframe, his charm evident. Thanks, guys, Christine replied, a sly smile playing on her lips. It feels good to be part of something so powerful. Her glance toward Max was both challenging and triumphant. Charles stepped closer, mischief lighting up his eyes. I think we should celebrate your new position. How about a little toast? Sure, why not? Christine leaned back in Max's chair, exuding confidence and comfort in her new position. As Alistair and Charles flirted with her, the atmosphere grew thick with tension. Their banter, playful and teasing, made it clear that Christine was relishing her newfound power, leaving Max in a simmering silence as he tried to maintain his composure. Later that night, Christine invited Alistair over to her place. The unspoken tension in the air made it clear that there was an attraction between them that had quickly ignited. The next day, when Max arrived at the office, he found Christine leaning over Charles's desk, engaged in an animated conversation. I had a great time last night, she said, her voice low and sultry, a teasing smile on her lips. Me too, Charles replied, his smile wide and unrestrained. We should definitely do that again. Max smiled and walked away. Throughout the day, Christine's playful flirting continued, and she basked in the attention from both men. You boys really know how to make a girl feel special, she purred, glancing between them with mischief in her eyes. Alistair chuckled. It's hard not to when you're around, Christine. You bring a certain energy to the office. As the afternoon wore on, Christine, Alistair, and Charles found themselves in the conference room, their laughter echoing through the hallways. All three engaged in the acts of passion. Suddenly, the door swung open, revealing the trio, clearly in high spirits. Max stood there. Hey, Max, Christine called out, her voice laced with false sweetness. Come join us. He smiled. Congratulations, Christine. Seems like you've really settled in. Stepping closer, Christine flashed a mischievous glint in her eye. Maybe you should try being more supportive, Max. After all, we're all in this together now. No, I am not. I am leaving and I have signed all the papers and now I am out and soon I will be free of you. Vincent Miller walked into his home, the familiar scent of dinner still lingering in the air, but the sounds coming from the bedroom drew his attention. He paused, furrowing his brow in confusion as he strained to make out what was happening behind the closed door. Teresa? Is everything okay? He called out, but the sounds continued, muffled and indecipherable. Anxiety bubbled within him, and he moved as quickly as his overweight frame would allow. With a deep breath, he flung open the bedroom door, and the sight before him sent shockwaves through his body. His wife, Teresa, was entwined with none other than Maximus Williams, her eyes closed in ecstasy. What the hell is going on here? Vincent shouted, his voice a mix of disbelief and fury. Max turned toward him, a smug grin spreading across his face. I'm just filling the holes you left in your marriage, Vincent, he replied coolly, not bothering to hide his satisfaction. Vincent felt a surge of rage coursing through him. You a-hole, he roared, charging at Max, fists clenched. The sight of his wife in such a compromising position sent him over the edge. He swung wildly, connecting with Max's jaw and knocking him back against the wall. Max staggered but quickly regained his balance, a glint of amusement in his eyes. Is that all you've got? The confrontation escalated, punches flying as the two men grappled. Vincent was fueled by hurt and anger, but Max was quick and agile, dodging and retaliating. Stop! Stop! Teresa screamed, trying to pull Vincent away, but the rage had overtaken him. Suddenly, sirens blared in the distance, growing louder as they approached the house. It wasn't long before the front door burst open, and two police officers rushed in. What's going on here? One of the officers shouted, assessing the chaotic scene before them. Vincent, still fuming, pointed at Max. He's in my house, sleeping with my wife. I'm just defending myself. The officers quickly intervened, separating the two men as Vincent tried to explain. Calm down, sir. We need to get this under control, one officer said, holding Vincent back. Max, are you injured? Max, still smirking, replied, I'm fine. Just a little bruised ego. The other officer turned to Vincent, who was panting heavily, anger radiating from him. We've received complaints of domestic disturbance. You need to take a step back. Domestic disturbance? Vincent echoed, incredulous. I caught him cheating with my wife. The first officer glanced at Teresa, who was visibly shaken. Ma'am, are you okay? I'm fine, she stammered, but the tension in her voice was unmistakable. After a quick discussion with Teresa, the officers determined that they had no choice but to take Vincent into custody for assault. We're going to need you to come with us, sir, one officer said firmly. Are you serious? I'm the victim here. Vincent protested, but it was futile. They handcuffed him, leading him out of the house as he shot a furious glare at Max. As Vincent was escorted out, Max turned to Teresa, triumphant. A week later, as I paced the living room, the late afternoon sun streaming through the windows, I couldn't shake the feeling of triumph that washed over me. Vincent's downfall was complete. The sound of the front door creaking open brought me back to the moment, and I turned to see Alistair and Charles stepping inside, both wearing expressions that indicated they were ready for action. Hey, Max, Alistair greeted, glancing around the room before focusing on me. We heard about Vincent. It's a shame he didn't have anyone to back him up. Yeah, well, he made his bed, I replied, trying to sound casual, but the satisfaction was undeniable. Now, he gets to lie in it. Charles leaned against the wall, crossing his arms. So, what's next? We know the divorce is happening, and she's going for everything she can get. It's time to move to the next phase of your plan. I nodded. I've been thinking about it a lot. Christine believes she's got me cornered, but she has no idea what's coming. We need to gather evidence against her and her boss, Kayla. If we can expose their underhanded tactics, it'll not only bolster my case, but also put her in a precarious position. Alistair grinned, his enthusiasm palpable. I've been working on that. I spoke to a couple of sources who've seen the two of them together, and they've hinted at some questionable activities. If we can dig deeper, we might find something solid. Charles chimed in. I can reach out to my contacts in the underworld. If they've crossed any lines, we can bring it to light and make sure it counts. I took a deep breath, the adrenaline coursing through me. Good. We need to act fast. Christine thinks she can take everything from me without facing any consequences, but we're going to show her that I'm not someone she can push around. 2 months later, Christine stormed into the office, her face flushed with a mix of anger and frustration, slamming the door behind her. Alistair and Charles exchanged a quick glance, clearly taken aback by her sudden arrival. She crossed her arms, staring them down with a look that could cut through steel. One of you, she said, her voice low and laced with bitterness, is the father of my child. Alistair's eyebrows shot up, while Charles shook his head, clearly trying to process what she was implying. Charles spoke up first. What are you talking about, Christine? That's a serious accusation. Oh, it's not an accusation, she snapped. It's a fact. And both of you need to step up and take responsibility, or I'll take this to court. I'll file a lawsuit for sexual abuse if that's what it takes. Alistair narrowed his eyes, unfazed. Christine, every encounter, every word exchanged between us, it's all recorded. You can't twist this around to suit your needs. Christine's expression wavered for a moment, but she steadied herself, her voice dripping with contempt. I don't care about your so-called recordings. I have proof of my pregnancy, and one of you is responsible. You can't just walk away from this. Charles folded his arms, keeping his gaze locked on hers. None of us is walking away from anything because neither of us is the father. Whatever you're trying to do here isn't going to work, Christine. Her hands balled into fists. You think you can just dismiss this? DNA doesn't lie. And I'll make sure the world knows about your so-called recordings if you push me. Alistair leaned forward, his tone calm but unyielding. Then take the test, Christine. If you're so confident, let's get a paternity test. Because we know the truth. Christine's face hardened, her lips pressing into a thin line. She stepped back, clearly realizing her threats weren't landing as she'd hoped. Fine, she said coldly, but if one of you is the father, be ready to pay the price. You'll regret this. As she turned on her heel and left, Alistair and Charles both smiled. A week later, Christine filed her lawsuit. The atmosphere in the courthouse was tense. Alistair and Charles arrived early, their expressions steely as they walked through the security checkpoint. As they entered the courtroom, they found Christine seated at the plaintiff's table, looking smug as she reviewed her documents. The judge, a stern woman with a reputation for being no-nonsense, took her seat on the bench, and the proceedings began. Court is now in session, she announced, her voice firm. We are here to address the lawsuit filed by Christine against Alistair Brown and Charles Xavier regarding paternity of her child. Christine, please state your case. Christine stood, adopting a practiced demeanor that belied the bitterness of her claims. Your Honor, I am seeking to establish paternity for my child and demand that both Alistair and Charles undergo DNA testing. I believe that one of them is the father, and it is imperative that they take responsibility. The judge raised an eyebrow, glancing at Alistair and Charles. And what is your response to this claim? Alistair stood, speaking firmly. Your Honor, this lawsuit is nothing more than an attempt to harass us and take control of our company. Christine is using this child as leverage. We deny the allegations, and we believe this case is frivolous. Charles added, we are being targeted in an effort to disrupt our business and reputations. This is an invasion of our privacy, and we refuse to be manipulated. Christine interjected, her tone dripping with indignation. If they are innocent, then they have nothing to fear. I'm simply asking for the truth. The judge glanced at her notes before looking back at Christine. Your allegations are serious, and the defendants have a right to protest being dragged into court over personal matters. However, the court has determined that a DNA test is warranted. It will provide clarity on this matter. The tension in the room thickened as Christine smirked. Thank you, Your Honor. I have faith that the truth will prevail. The judge turned her gaze to Alistair and Charles. You are required to comply with the court's order. The DNA tests must be completed within the next 7 days. Failure to comply could result in contempt of court. As the judge called for the next case, Christine shot them a triumphant look, clearly reveling in the chaos she was stirring. Alistair and Charles stood their ground, knowing they had to stick to their strategy. Once they exited the courtroom, Alistair turned to Charles. "She just fell into our trap." They both laughed and went to their office. 2 weeks passed after the DNA tests were administered, and the atmosphere in the courtroom was electric with anticipation. Alistair and Charles arrived early, their nerves taut as they waited for the judge to enter. Maximus sat behind them, his presence a comforting reminder that they had a strong support system. As the judge entered the room, the hushed crowd fell silent. She took her seat, glancing at the paperwork on her desk before addressing everyone. "We are here to discuss the results of the DNA paternity tests in the case of Christine versus Alistair Brown and Charles Xavier." Christine sat at her table, a smug expression on her face, as if she believed the results would favor her. The judge opened the envelope containing the DNA test results, her brow furrowing as she scanned the contents. "Based on the results of the DNA tests," the judge began, her voice steady, "it has been confirmed that neither Alistair Brown nor Charles Xavier is the father of the child in question." A shocked silence enveloped the courtroom. Christine's expression shifted from smug confidence to disbelief, her mouth opening in protest. "This can't be. There must be some mistake." The judge looked sharply at Christine. "There is no mistake. You have attempted to malign the names of reputable lawyers for personal gain, and I will not tolerate such behavior in my courtroom." Christine stood, her voice shaking with anger. "I have a right to seek the truth. You can't just dismiss my claims." The judge raised a hand, silencing her. "Your claims were unfounded and based on nothing more than conjecture and manipulation. You have wasted the court's time and resources. I suggest you reflect on your actions." Maximus took this moment to rise from his seat, drawing the attention of the judge and everyone in the courtroom. "Your Honor, if I may?" The judge nodded, allowing him to proceed. "Your Honor, I'd like to introduce myself as a witness. I believe that I can provide further context regarding the paternity of Christine's child," Charles said, stepping forward. "Go on," the judge said, intrigued. Max turned to the judge, his expression serious. "I have information that a former client of Christine's, a convict named Chad Jones, is the actual father of her child. Christine has been involved with him, and I have evidence to support this claim." Gasps rippled through the courtroom, and Christine's face flushed with anger. "That's absurd. You're lying." Alistair interjected, his tone firm. "We're not lying. We can provide evidence of her involvement with Chad Jones. This is about the truth coming to light, and we won't let her drag our names through the mud." The judge raised her eyebrows, clearly intrigued. "Mr. Maximus, do you have any evidence to support this claim?" The courtroom buzzed with tension. "Your Honor," Charles began, addressing the judge with confidence, "if Christine has made allegations regarding the paternity of her child and insisted on DNA tests for us, then it's only fair that we extend the same request to Chad Jones. If she is so certain he is not the father, she should have no objection to verifying that claim." Christine's eyes widened in shock, and she shot Charles a furious glare. "You can't just drag him into this. He has nothing to do with it." The judge raised her hand, silencing Christine. "Let's allow Mr. Xavier to finish his argument." Charles continued, his tone steady. "Your Honor, it is clear that Christine is trying to use this situation to her advantage. If there is no evidence linking Chad to the child, then a simple DNA test should clear his name just as it has cleared ours. It's a matter of fairness and transparency in this court." Christine opened her mouth to protest again, but the judge cut her off. "Miss Christine, your response?" She hesitated, realizing she was cornered. I don't think it's necessary. Chad is not involved in this." The judge raised an eyebrow. "It seems you are quite certain of that. But given your insistence on pursuing paternity tests for others, it is only fair to allow the same for Chad Jones if you wish to clear this matter up once and for all." Charles nodded, encouraged by the judge's words. "Exactly, Your Honor. If Chad Jones is not the father, then he should have no issue providing a sample. This is about finding the truth, after all." The judge looked thoughtful for a moment before responding. "Very well. The court will issue an order for Chad Jones to provide a DNA sample for testing. We will reconvene once those results are in. This will provide clarity on all claims." The gavel struck firmly, and the judge concluded, "Court is adjourned until we receive the results from Chad Jones's DNA test." 3 weeks later, the atmosphere in the courtroom was tense as everyone awaited the judge's decision regarding the DNA results of Chad Jones. Alistair, Charles, and Maximus sat together, their expressions a mix of anticipation and anxiety. Christine, seated across from them, looked anxious and defensive, her fingers fidgeting in her lap. The judge entered the room, a serious expression on her face as she reviewed the documents in front of her. She cleared her throat, capturing everyone's attention. Court is now in session regarding the paternity case of Christine versus Alistair Brown and Charles Xavier. The DNA test results for Chad Jones have been received, and I will now read the findings. As she unfolded the report, the room fell silent. The judge's eyes scanned the paper, and a heavy pause hung in the air before she spoke again. The results indicate that Chad Jones is indeed the biological father of the child in question. Gasps filled the courtroom. Christine's face turned pale, shock overtaking her features. She was clearly unprepared for this revelation, her previous bravado shattered in an instant. In light of this evidence, the judge continued, the court dismisses all claims against Alistair Brown and Charles Xavier. You are free from any wrongdoing in this matter. The judge turned her attention toward Christine, her tone stern. Miss Christine, I must reprimand you for attempting to manipulate this court with baseless accusations against these men. It is unacceptable to use the judicial system for personal gain. Your actions have consequences, and I urge you to consider the implications of your behavior moving forward. Before Christine could respond, her expression twisted into one of overwhelming distress. She put a hand to her forehead, swaying slightly in her seat. I can't believe this, she murmured, her voice trailing off as she suddenly fainted, collapsing onto the floor. Chaos erupted in the courtroom as people rushed to her side. The judge immediately called for a brief recess, and medical personnel arrived to assess Christine's condition. As she was taken out on a stretcher, the judge shook her head, clearly exasperated by the entire situation. 2 days later, Maximus received an unexpected call from Christine. Her voice was cold and threatening, filled with a simmering rage. I just had an abortion, and I know you're behind all of this. You think you've won, don't you, Max? Max could hear the bitterness in her tone. Christine, you brought this upon yourself. Don't pretend to act like you care, she snapped back, her voice shaking with anger. You've orchestrated everything from the start. I'll make sure you regret this. I have friends, and they won't let you get away with what you've done. Max remained calm, refusing to rise to her provocation. You should think carefully about your next steps. Your actions have consequences, Christine. You'll pay for this, Max. Just wait and see, she threatened before abruptly hanging up, leaving Max with a sense of unease. Max paced the floor of his living room, his mind racing after the call with Christine. Just as he was about to sit down, his phone rang again. It was Sheriff Miller. Max, the sheriff said, his tone steady but urgent. I need you to stay put for a moment. I've got some news. What's going on, Sheriff? Max asked, his heart racing. I've already heard the conversation you just had with Christine, Sheriff Miller replied. I had your phone tapped for your own safety. It seems like she's not taking this loss lightly. I want you to know that my men are already keeping an eye out for any trouble. Max felt a rush of anxiety. You think she's going to do something? I suspect she might, the sheriff said, his voice firm. Christine has shown that she's willing to go to extreme lengths. I expect she'll have some men come after you. You need to be careful. Max ran a hand through his hair, feeling the weight of the situation. What should I do? Stay inside for now. Don't go out alone, and don't let your guard down. I'm sending a couple of deputies to keep an eye on your place. Just make sure you're prepared for anything. Max nodded, his resolve hardening. Thanks, Sheriff. I appreciate it. I'll keep my head down and wait for your guys. Good. If you notice anything suspicious, call me immediately. We're not going to let her intimidate you. Just remember, you're not in this alone, Sheriff Miller reassured him. Got it, Max replied. I'll be on high alert. Stay safe, Max, the sheriff said before ending the call. Max was visited by Charles and Alistair. You guys really pulled it off with Chad? Yeah, it was actually easier than we thought, Alistair replied, a hint of pride in his voice. We offered him a decent amount of money for a sample. He was in a tight spot financially, and we framed it as a business opportunity. Charles nodded. We made it sound like we needed it for some sort of legal case. He didn't ask too many questions. Just thought he was making a quick buck. Max leaned back, a smirk creeping across his face. So, you actually got him to hand over his juice? What a fool. Exactly, Alistair said, chuckling. Once we had that, we knew we could turn the tables on Christine. She thought she could play us, but now it's her own game that's backfiring. But we need to stay cautious, Alistair warned, his tone growing serious. Christine is unpredictable. She might lash out, and we have to be ready for her retaliation. Max felt a rush of satisfaction at the thought. It's poetic, really. She tried to destroy us, and instead, we've got her cornered. This has ruined her reputation in the legal community. Max raised his glass, a determined glint in his eye. To our success. We'll make sure she pays for underestimating us. We'll keep the pressure on and make sure she knows she can't mess with us. Alistair and Charles raised their glasses in agreement, the camaraderie solidifying their resolve. To friendship and our brotherhood, Charles said. To Chad and his juices, Alistair chimed in. Sheriff Miller sat in his office, the dim light from his computer screen illuminating his furrowed brow as he listened intently to the audio feed. The conversation between Kayla and Christine crackled through the speakers, tension thick in the air. Are you sure about this? Kayla's voice came through, laced with urgency. You really think it's the only way? Absolutely, Christine replied, her tone cold and calculating. He's a threat to us, and if we don't eliminate him now, he'll keep coming after us. We can't let him wreck my life. Sheriff Miller sat in his office, the dim light from his computer screen illuminating his furrowed brow as he listened intently to the audio feed. The conversation between Kayla and Christine crackled through the speakers, tension thick in the air. Are you sure about this? Kayla's voice came through, laced with urgency. You really think it's the only way? Absolutely, Christine replied, her tone cold and calculating. He's a threat to us, and if we don't eliminate him now, he'll keep coming after us. We can't let him expose us. Miller's heart raced. He quickly jotted down notes. Every detail was critical to building a case. This is bad, he muttered to himself. Kayla's voice softened, almost sympathetic. But kidnapping? Isn't that a bit extreme? He deserves it, Christine snapped, her frustration evident. He ruined my life. I won't let him get away with it. We just need to make it look like an accident. Nobody will suspect a thing. Miller leaned closer to the screen, his hands gripping the desk tightly. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. This was a serious crime in the making. Okay, Kayla finally relented, her voice quieter. What's the plan then? We'll follow him. Wait until he's alone. It'll be easy to grab him when he's distracted, Christine explained, her confidence growing. I have a couple of guys who owe me favors. They'll help us out. All right, just make sure no one gets hurt. Okay? We're just trying to scare him, not kill him, Kayla warned, a hint of hesitation in her voice. Christine's laugh was chilling. Too late for that. If he fights back, it's his own fault. We can't take any chances. You have to be ruthless, Christine. You can't show any weakness, Kayla urged, her voice dripping with encouragement. This is your chance to take control of your life. Remember how he treated you. Don't let him manipulate you any longer. Christine's voice hardened, empowered by Kayla's words. You're right. I've let him walk all over me for too long. No more. This is the moment I take back what's mine. Miller's mind raced as he processed the implications of their plan. He grabbed his phone, already dialing Max's number, urgency coursing through him. He needed to warn him immediately. The call connected, and Max's voice came through, slightly distracted. Sheriff? What's going on? Max, you need to listen carefully, Miller said, his tone serious. I've been tracking some calls between Christine and Kayla. They're planning to kidnap you, and possibly worse. Max's voice shifted to alarm. What? Are you serious? Dead serious. They're plotting it as we speak. You need to stay alert and avoid being alone. I'm sending some deputies over to keep watch, but I need you to take this seriously, Miller warned. Thanks, Sheriff. I won't take any chances. I'll keep my guard up, Max replied, his voice steady despite the fear creeping in. Good. I'll be in touch, and I'll keep monitoring their communications. We'll catch them before they can make a move. Just stay safe, Miller urged before hanging up. I was sitting at home, the weight of the last few weeks pressing heavily on my shoulders. My mind raced, processing everything that had transpired since Christine's threats had turned into a reality. Just as I was trying to piece things together, I heard a commotion outside, an engine revving and tires screeching. I rushed to the window just in time to see a van come to a halt in front of my house. Before I could even register what was happening, 5 masked men leaped from the vehicle and charged toward my door. My heart pounded in my chest, adrenaline flooding my veins as I instinctively reached for my phone. But before I could dial, I heard the deafening crack of gunfire. 3 shots rang out, and I froze, my breath catching in my throat. One of the masked men fell to the ground, lifeless. Panic surged through me, and I dropped to the floor, peering through the window for any sign of what was happening outside. My pulse raced as I saw a swarm of officers in tactical gear, a SWAT team led by Sheriff Justin Miller, surrounding the van. They moved with precision, barking commands into their radios and taking positions. Max, stay down. I heard Miller shout from somewhere outside, his voice cutting through the chaos. I could barely breathe, the fear of the unknown gripping me. I hadn't even fully processed what was happening when one of the masked men, cornered and desperate, looked up and shouted, "Damn, what have we got ourselves into? It's bloody Nick Fury coming to catch us." The absurdity of the situation almost made me laugh, but the reality quickly crashed back down as the SWAT team moved in. They were well prepared, and it was clear they weren't going to give these guys any chance to escape. As the remaining 4 masked men dropped their weapons and surrendered, the tension in the room shifted. I watched as Sheriff Justin Miller entered my house, his demeanor calm yet commanding, a sharp contrast to the chaos that had just unfolded. "Max, you all right?" he asked, scanning the room for any signs of injury. "I'm fine," I replied, my voice steady but still laced with adrenaline. "What about them? Are they going to talk?" Miller shrugged, a faint smirk tugging at his lips. "They will. It's only a matter of time. These guys may be tough on the streets, but once the pressure's on, they'll crack like eggs. Just waiting for the right moment to drop Kayla's name." "Do you really think they'll give her up?" I asked, trying to gauge his confidence. "Oh, I know they will," he replied, leaning against the wall with an air of certainty. "These men are pawns in a much bigger game. Once they realize they're facing serious charges, the first thing they'll do is look for a way out. They won't take the fall for Kayla." I felt a rush of relief, but it was accompanied by a gnawing anxiety. What if she gets away? What if she finds a way to disappear? "Don't worry about that. We've got eyes everywhere. We're monitoring all her moves. She thinks she's untouchable, but that's not going to last long," Miller assured me, his tone firm. I nodded, appreciating his reassurance, but the unease lingered. "So, what's next? How do we proceed?" "First, we'll get these guys into interrogation. I'm sending in my best team. They'll apply the right kind of pressure," he explained. "By this evening, we should have enough to make a move on Kayla." "And what if they don't crack?" I pressed, feeling the weight of the situation. "They will, Max, believe me. It's all about survival, and they know they're facing serious time. We'll have them in by evening, and once they do, we'll take action against Kayla. She'll be the one sweating next." I took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of hope and apprehension. I just want this to end. I want my life back. Miller met my gaze, his expression softening. "We're going to make that happen. You've been through enough. Just hang tight and let us do our job." "Thanks, Justin. I appreciate everything you're doing," I said, grateful for his unwavering support. "Just keep your head on straight, Max." "We're almost there," he replied before heading back outside. Later that evening, my phone buzzed with an incoming call from Sheriff Miller. I answered it, my heart racing, hoping for good news. "Max, it's me," Miller said, his voice steady but with an edge of urgency. "We've got your wife in custody." Relief washed over me. "That's great news. What about Kayla? Did you catch her too?" "Unfortunately, she managed to slip away. We're still on the lookout for her, and the FBI has been informed. If she's still in the U.S., we should be able to track her down soon," he explained. "What if she runs off to Mexico?" I asked, a knot of anxiety forming in my stomach. "It might be her worst mistake," Miller replied, a slight chuckle in his tone. "I know a guy, a soup maker, to be precise. He can help, but not through legal channels or means." "A soup maker?" I repeated, incredulous. "What kind of help can he provide?" "Yeah, a soup maker," Miller said, his tone turning serious. "His name is Santiago Meza Lopez. He's a drug cartel boss, infamous for his unique methods of making people disappear. They say he's got a way of turning enemies into soup, quite literally. He's not just a soup maker. He's connected to the underbelly of the cartel," Miller continued. "If Kayla has any intention of fleeing to Mexico, Santiago is the guy who can find her. He has eyes everywhere. But his methods are anything but legal, and he doesn't operate on a moral compass. He's ruthless. Why would he help us?" I asked, my mind racing at the implications. "Long story, for another time. He has interests that align with our need to catch Kayla," Miller explained. "Plus, he loves a good game. If he can stick it to the feds while helping you out, he might find it amusing." I shook my head, wrestling with the idea. "And what's the price for his help? This sounds like a slippery slope." "Exactly. There's always a cost. He'll want something in return. Loyalty, information, maybe even favors down the line. That's how he operates," Miller said. "But if you're serious about tracking Kayla down before she slips through our fingers, he's your best shot." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision ahead. If this guy can help, then I need to contact him. But I want to know what I'm getting into. Just remember, Max, this isn't the law. It's the Wild West out there. I understand, I replied, resolve hardening within me. Get me Santiago's information. I'll make the call. If Kayla thinks she can run, she's got another thing coming. All right, I'll get the details to you, but tread carefully. This path can lead to places you might not be ready for, Miller cautioned. Also, we never had this conversation. I hope we are clear about this. Yes, Sheriff, we are clear. 3 months later, Christine was found guilty of attempted murder. The sentence was pronounced, life with the possibility of parole. I felt a sense of vindication wash over me, but it was bittersweet. With Max Legal Services officially filing for bankruptcy and dissolving, it was time for us to forge a new path. We sat together in a small conference room, a makeshift office filled with boxes and remnants of our former firm. CM Legal Services, I said, letting the name roll off my tongue. It has a nice ring to it. Alistair nodded, a smile breaking through the seriousness. It signifies a fresh start, a new direction. We can't let the past define us. Charles interrupted and said, that is just our names, you dumb idiot. Christine's fate was sealed, and I had finally found closure. With my friends by my side, I was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As I sat with Alistair and Charles in our newly established office of CAM Legal Services, a familiar buzz interrupted our conversation. I pulled out my phone, glancing at the screen to see a message from an unknown number. My heart raced for a moment. The message simply read, "Do you like Pozole?" I looked up to both Alistair and Charles and said, "Get packing, we are going to Mexico." In a dimly lit office in another town in the U.S., a woman paced back and forth, her voice tense as she spoke into the phone. "So, we lost again," she said, frustration evident in her tone. The person on the other line responded, and she continued, "Kayla is in Mexico. She's completely out of reach." A pause followed, and she clenched her jaw at the reply. "Kill her. She's of no use to us anymore," the voice on the other end suggested coldly. "Are you serious? Just like that?" The woman replied, incredulous. "She might still be an asset. Trust me, she's a liability now. We've also been hearing a lot about this Santiago guy from Mexico. Keep an eye on him," the voice urged. "I will, but we need to tread carefully. There's too much at stake," she replied, a hint of anxiety creeping into her voice. "Also, there's this guy named Ralph. He could be a wild card. We need to monitor him too." "Hold on for a while," she said, biting her lip. "I still need to figure out what to do with Sheriff Miller. He's a pain in the butt, always sniffing around. Just don't underestimate him. He's proven to be more resourceful than we anticipated," the voice warned. I know. I'll handle it," she reassured, trying to sound more confident than she felt. "Call the Black Widow," the voice instructed. Her husband just returned from Afghanistan. Half a man now. Time for her to start her plan. The woman was enthralled in her lust and passion with her young lover. He was always dominate, and she loved every second of it. They were having sex in the same bed she would lay with her husband. She screamed with her lover as they climaxed together, falling asleep in each other's arms. The young man then spoke. "My God, Cindy. I did not know it could be so good." Cindy smiled to her lover. "Well, it only gets better from her, darling." The young man then took a breath before her spoke. "Cindy, I know I'm only 18, and folks think I'm too stupid to know what I want. But I love you, Cindy." "Oh my God, Donald. Baby, that is so sweet of you." I love you too. I'll always love you, and only you, baby." Both were so happy now. Donald was told all his life how useless and dumb he was, and now he found someone who cared about him. Whereas Cindy was happy she found her perfect useful idiot. It was so easy for her to have Donald. All it took was casual talks in the supermarket he worked, and the occasional flirt, until the day she took him to her home, in the guise of needing help with groceries. In his naive sense, he thought she needed help, until she went to the bathroom, to return with nothing but a towel after a fresh shower. She took him right then and there. By the end of the day, he was all hers, whether he knew it or not. Her husband was fighting for his country in Afghanistan. She received word that he would be coming home, due to a grievous injury. He had lost one of his legs, his hand and left eye due to a suicide bomber who was engaging his unit. He stopped the bomber before he could get to his unit. He was a hero and saved their lives. They would see their families again because of them. He even received the Medal of Honor. She could not wait to kill him. She was a sleeper cell of the sisterhood after all, born into the organization to be one of its trained killers. From child to adulthood, she was taught to manipulate, seduce, control, and to kill all men. That men were nothing more than tools of pleasure used for breeding purposes. And she was truly gifted. She would always meet her target innocently. An accidental bump, being the helpless victim who falls for her savior, or simply a hookup where things seemed complicated until it wasn't. When her target served its use, that was when they wound up dead. She would then collect the life insurance, then disappear. And her current husband, Captain Charles Barker, would be no different. When he heard that her husband was coming home due to his injuries, she played her part as the loving wife well. Then she planned. She met with her young lover. She was a beautiful woman in her early 30s, while he was fresh out of high school. He would tell her how scared of her husband she was, how he would assault her in front of his friends when they came over, just to have them assault her after, even how his abuse killed her baby. Anything to manipulate the young man and make him into her plaything. The young man was a good man, known around his community for being there for others and his kindness. But he was also young, naive, and a virgin. Knowing that, she sexually exploited and pleasured the young man in a way he could not fathom. She was well trained in how to please a man, and with her experience, she made him do anything she wanted for her. It was only a matter of time that she would have her final use of him. She told her young lover that she wanted their sex to be rough. The young man was nervous at first. She told him her fantasy of being assaulted. The young man was taken aback by this. He loved her with all her being. He didn't want to hurt her. But with reassurance and seduction, she convinced him this was for her, to help her heal, and for fun. He waited outside for an hour as she prepared dinner. Her yellow sundress on. She left the door open, but he kicked it open. She acted like the startled victim. He used the gun she gave him, a .38 snub nose, for dramatic effect. She advised him that they were blanks and would not hurt anyone. He then had sex with her on the kitchen floor right there. Her moans matched his. Their passion and yearning for each other was undeniable. "Oh, I love you, Cindy." Cindy, playing her part, spoke back. "Oh, I love you," to Donald. "Now take me, baby. Oh God, take me." It was then that she saw her husband. The look of shock, heartbreak in his face, still dressed in his uniform with his prosthetic leg. As he stood there, a blank expression on his face, a smile came to hers. Then a scream escaped her lips. Oh my God. "Donald, it's him. Charles, my husband. Don't let him hurt me, baby. Please don't let him take me from you." Charles stood there confused, thinking to himself, "Wait, what is happening right now? She is cheating on me." Suddenly, he heard 3 shots go off. It felt like someone hit him in the chest for some reason. He then looked down, seeing 3 holes in his chest. "What?" was the last thing he said, before slumping to the ground dead. Donald just looked at the man on the ground, the smoking gun still in his hand. He had barely put his pants on when he pulled the trigger. He was such a nervous wreck. He had never killed someone before. He then slumped over, and he began to cry. "It's okay, baby. You did what you had to do." He then spoke up. "Thank you, baby. I love you so much. I would protect you from anything." He then got up to turn around and face her. "Cindy, I love." Before he could finish his words, he looked down to see a kitchen knife stick out from his chest. In shock, he tried to take it out, only for Cindy to remove it, just to stab him another 3 times, each hitting a lung and eventually his heart. As he lay dying on the kitchen floor, he mouths out the word, "Why?" Cindy simply smiled to him. "Because, my useful idiot, your services are no longer required." Donald then let his tears fall, as he died right there on the kitchen floor. In the following weeks, the police investigated the crime and ruled Donald's murder an act of self-defense. The community mourned the loss of their hero, who came home only to be killed by the criminal who assaulted his wife. Thankfully, the wife was able to stop and kill the murderer before he assaulted anyone else. Donald had no family, nor anyone who would miss him. He was often ostracized and bullied by others due to his height and limp. He was very athletic and built, yet his self-esteem was non-existent. But through the grace of God, Cindy survived the ordeal. At least that was what Cindy wanted people to believe. And they did in fact believe so. Cindy then collected the $2 million life insurance, and then along with her name Cindy, left the town and everything behind. The woman formerly known as Cindy was drinking her beverage at a resort in Jamaica. It was around then that she received a call. When she saw the number, a smile came to her face. "Well, hello, darling. It is always a joy to hear from you." The voice on the other end spoke. "Well done with the issue, dear. It was causing us problems overseas before it got home. Our sponsors were having a problem with it, hindering their projects overseas." "Yes, of course. However, I feel as thought there is more than congratulations." "Yes, of course. We need you to go to Texas. We have another issue. The grocery list is already in your room, dear. Do enjoy your stay in the meantime." The woman hung up the phone and made her way to her room, to find a waiting file on her next target waiting for her. She read about Sheriff Justin Miller and all new information, how he locked up allies of the sisterhood and had them executed in the courts, as well as some of his operations in black ops and mercenary work, as well as family and friends. She then saw his wife, who he apparently saved. Tooth for tooth, the woman said to herself as she put a cigarette out on the woman's face in the picture. She then spoke to the photo as if it were alive. You caused the sisterhood loss, Sheriff Miller. It is only fair that you suffer it as well. Justin had finally come home after a long day. He did a finale checkup on Max and the others. These past weeks were insane, to put it mildly, despite the fact the whole thing lasted for over 5 months. From introductions to planning, to undercover and evidence gathering. Christine was a shell of herself after the sentencing. She did not know enough to damage the organization, otherwise she would be dead. Not that it mattered to him, but she was safe for now. Justin walked around his home looking for his wife. Thinking she was asleep, he headed for the bedroom. He thought of how much she flirted with him today, sending him pictures of his favorite outfit he loved seeing her in. She was wearing a police button-up shirt partially opened with the hat to match, and nothing else. Oh, the things I'm going to do to you, woman. But when he opens the bedroom door, he saw anything but what he wanted. He saw an empty but made-up bed, with an envelope on the sheets. And it was a letter that said, "Call me if you want her breathing lover boy." He looked at the number, then called. "Justin, baby, where are you?" Before he could respond, his wife was pulled away. Another voice taking her place. "Follow the numbers, lover boy, or the next time you see this lovely woman is when I deliver her to you in pieces." The phone call ends. Justin knows time is not his friend. She meant what she said, but he won't fall completely in her web if he can help it. He looks at the longitude and latitude. It is the abandoned town closed off from the interstate. But instead of going blind, he prepares. Even with the time he lacks, he can make it work. As the town sheriff, he made it a point to know the ins and out of his area, even the ones out of it. He knew abandoned structures are a haven for bad guys, which is why he collected all blueprints of the town's and outer area working. The town has not been used since the 1920s. This tell him the area the sniper will be is a strong building or structure that provides clear visual of anyone or anything in the area. Once the terrain was studied, he was ready. He placed his SR-25 sniper rifle in his truck and headed to save his wife and kill the bitch dumb enough to threaten her. He was 2 miles away when he decided to go on foot from then on. He put on an aluminium-based overcover to hide heat signatures and placed the night vision scope on his rifle due to the night sky. He crawled to the top of the hill and scanned the town below. He saw his wife in the middle of the town square. An obvious trap. If he goes down in the illuminated area, he dies. Or worse, he watches as his wife dies. Then he is gut shot, left to bleed out. Either way, it is not the outcome he wants. He must find her. He realizes that she is not in the town, but on a hill like him. She knows he would have to untie his wife from behind, so that means the sniper is west. He focuses on the west side of the hill, slowly moving to face and head to that area. It pains him to see how scared his wife is, but if either of them is surviving, he must keep his head on straight. He finds a comfortable position, then scans the area. He suddenly hears a gunshot. He wants to turn to see his wife, but he knows if he moves, he shows his position. She must have found the car, if she knows I'm here. She sounded sadistic and cruel, which means she want me and my wife to suffer. My wife is not dead yet. Got to focus. He keeps his sight open to the terrain, until he notices something in the west. At first it looks like a dead animal, kind of deer, but then he notices the deer's mouth opening, then a human hand. Without thinking, he fires. He watches as the sniper's hand explodes as his bullet obliterated. He didn't want to kill her. He needed answers. But he had to make sure his wife was safe. For good measure, he then shoots her kneecap. Her screams and curses are heard in the area. He then shoots the rifle, destroying it, and her chance to shoot with it again. When he reaches his wife, he unties her. She cries tears of joy and relief and joy when she sees it is him. Justin. Oh, thank God. What is going on? I don't know, honey. Thing that matters are that you are safe. Both make their way to the sniper. Justin tells his wife to stand back as he gets closer. When he gets close, he sees that the sniper is a beautiful woman. Her blonde hair and blue eyes would be enchanting if not for the fact she was a bloody mess. Before he can say anything, she speaks up. Screw you, pig. The sisterhood lives. Suddenly, she slaps the side of her neck with her arm, then shakes and convulses right there, until she is dead. He looks down at the beautiful body as the foam leaves her mouth. Suddenly, he hears a phone. He picks it up, looking at the number. It is unknown. He then answers without speaking. Is it done now? Checkup time has expired. Is it done now? Why aren't you answering? Justin stared at the phone before he spoke. You missed. The phone then disconnected immediately. Justin knew that this was far from over, and that this was bigger than he could fight alone. Justin then made the call for units to arrive on scene and gave them all a rundown what happened. But there was not 1 minute when he was away from his wife. He loved her with all his heart, and the fact that some organization has dared come to his family awoken a rage in him he had not felt in years. I'm going to kill them all, he said to himself. There was no need for vows or promises. Whoever did this was dead. Justin was at the hospital waiting as his wife was treated for injuries. When he saw her, he just held on to her. As if reading his mind, she spoke to him. I never had a doubt, baby. I knew you would save me. Never had a doubt. Justin then realized he was crying, but it didn't matter. He was just thankful she was safe. When they got home, he wanted to take her to bed, and she followed. But instead of sleeping, she came to her husband, wearing the same apparel. With tears in her eyes, she spoke looking into his. I wore this to make love to my husband, and I will not let some man-hating nut job ruin it. I have every intention of screaming your name as you make me climax. I won't allow that evil bitch to ruin it, will you? Shock hit him at first, but then a smile formed as his hands explored her body. No, not at all. They then made love throughout the night. As the week passed, Justin is in his office at the police station. He investigates the woman he killed. Based on her description, to say she has a pattern is an understatement. She had so many fake names, he was not sure he would find the real one. Not to mention she is suspected of over 40 deaths, or her spouses died under mysterious circumstances. But her name always changed after every death and insurance collection. Her victims included drug dealers, criminals, teachers, executives, even law enforcement and military. Yet her real name was nowhere in sight. He also looked at the capsule that was removed from her, its seal obviously broken. He suddenly hears a knock on the door. Come in. The medical examiner, Kat, a young, awkward but beautiful and caring woman, comes inside. Sorry for bothering you, sir, but I think you should know something. My boyfriend works in Austin. Thank you for letting me have off last week. We had so much fun, and he did that thing with his. Kat, focus. Right, sorry. Anyway, he says some sniper killed a Texas Ranger where he is, but she was taken out by another Ranger. A badass chick too. But that is not all, sir. They found a capsule inside her too, just like ours. Sir, I think this is bigger than we thought. Justin took her words in. Good work, Kat. Call your boyfriend back. I think it is time me and this Ranger had a heart-to-heart in person. We have a shared interest. Weeks later, a man with the Grim Reaper tattooed on his shoulder is putting body parts in the chest trunk. The faces of his victims frozen in time, as they show the story of their death. Men, women, and children. When he finishes, he shuts the trunk door. He leaves the trunk in the dining room, then walks away from the house that was the scene of his brutal crime to this family that made the mistake of seeing what they were not supposed to. As he sets the home ablaze, he hears his phone go off. He smiles at the caller ID when he answers. Well, the Queen's footstool. To what do I owe the pleasure of your company, darling? His thick southern voice evident. You and your brothers are requested. Same location for us. The man then hangs up the phone. A smile formed on high face. Oh Lord, how I do love family reunions. The man then laughs as he drives off into the long stretch of road, away from his destruction. But he bellows knowing that with his brothers in the mix, his next slaughter will be biblical. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.